Hello, my lovely human, and welcome back to Moon When Fueled. Today, we're talking about a toxic relationship many of us have been in. Perfectionism. Have you ever felt like no matter how much effort you put in, it's never quite enough? Like you're chasing a moving target, tweaking and refining, but never feeling fully satisfied. If so, you are not alone. In this episode, I'm sharing my own messy breakup with perfectionism, how it nearly broke me, how I built from the ground up, and how you can start untangling yourself from its grip. We'll break down the different ways that perfectionism shows up in our lives, why it's so sneaky, and most importantly, how to break free. So if you're tired of feeling like you have to prove yourself over and over again, this episode is for you. Let's go. I am willing to bet that at some point you've wrestled with perfectionism. It's a hugely relevant topic for women, and I know that I had a episode last week featuring Stephanie Sauvé-Beau where we discussed perfectionism, but I wanted to touch back on it and to be able to provide more actionable tools and identify the many faces that perfectionism has, because for any given woman, for any given person, no two perfectionisms are the same. And maybe you're the person who, has stared at a finished product or project, yet your inner voice just whispered, it's not right, over and over again, but you can't figure out what that not rightness is. Or you've replayed a work presentation from 3 days ago, analyzing every word, wondering how you should have done it better. Or even, this is one that's really relevant to me, perhaps you have found yourself in panic cleaning mode when your friend texts, hey, I'm swinging by in a few, and your heart just drops. So you freak out and chaos clean all over for the next 15 minutes instead of just texting back, hey, I am so excited to see you, and I'm going to let you see me in all my messy glory just as I am. I'm not going to panic clean. Because it took me a long time to realize that that was even an option. But the thing is, we've all been there. We've all drained ourselves over something, frankly, only to receive praise for the very thing that we allowed to deplete us. Then we all used that praise as fuel to do it all over again when the opportunity presented itself. For me, my breakup with perfectionism wasn't a conscious decision as much as I'd like to say it was. It wasn't a slow realization or some really graceful shift in my mindset. It took me having a full-blown collapse mentally, physically, and spiritually. It was messy. It was humbling. It was brutal. And while my story isn't unique, the sneaky nature of perfectionism often keeps these expectations and experiences and understandings of them hidden in the shadows. Because of perfectionism, if we have these thought processes of, oh, wow, I've been in this dance for too long, it's time to step away, many of us aren't going to share what it took for us to get there. So today, we're not only bringing it to light for everyone, but I'm going to get a little vulnerable and share a bit of my experience with it. Because again, perfectionism isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. It manifests in different ways, and while some people struggle with just one form of perfectionism that I'll list out later, others, like myself, often find themselves caught in a web of multi-layered perfectionism. So I've been pretty open about navigating neurodivergence throughout my life, pretty open about my experience with mental health, and my ADHD has always been very present, but my journey has also included a diagnosis with, if you know any of my story, a diagnosis with bipolar 2, which we are not really sure is really what's going on in my brain, but we're just sort of in the exploration phase of that now. But anyways, whatever is going on in my brain that has been occurring since I was so little has shaped my reality in a really big way. And the diagnosis ended up being bipolar 2 because I have these very consistent periods of intense energy where I would sleep very little and do a lot of things, followed by deep depression. And I share my stories, just precursor always, I share my stories not from a place of a poor me narrative, but to offer proof that if someone like me who has fallen, gotten back up, and faced both internal and external challenges, if someone like me can break free from perfectionism and create this life of fulfillment, you can too. I'm not special in any way, and I classify most people to be more special than me. So if I can do it, abso-freaking-lutely you can too, especially given the right tools. So I believe that every less helpful or even negative, we'll say, pattern that we develop as adults or is present as adults has roots in something really noble and pure from when we were little. For me, perfectionism was born from a deep desire to bring joy to others, to help in whatever way I could. And I wanted to create that sparkly feeling that comes from making a difference. And I would see my parents' faces, or my teachers would say something really great because I did something, because I helped them feel that way. And frankly, it progressed to be more about control and channeling my energy into something that felt rewarding. And frankly, the dopamine hit from the praise that I got was addictive. But here's the thing. My brain doesn't play by normal, air quotes, normal rules. And I didn't know that when I was little. And knowing that now, I look at little me and I just want to give her a hug. But the thing is, my neurodivergence is one of my greatest gifts on some days. And other days, it's like a weighted backpack that I'm carrying up a hill. And in those ways, it clashed with traditional structures. It clashed with school, schedules, societal norms. And so I worked twice as hard behind the scenes, often in ways that no one saw, not even my closest friends understood. I worked really hard behind the scenes to keep up. And my ability to hyper focus meant that I'd either be up all night in an excitement fueled frenzy or stuck in a loop of frustration and self-doubt, which neither extreme was at all sustainable. But of course, I didn't know that then. And we all fall into this approval trap. And the thing about my content is that I want to be very, very clear that never will I be sharing any components of my stories from a place of the victim. Always the victor, and always sharing with you the ways that I worked through something and sharing my stories and my experiences from the place of someone who has worked through it. And I think that that's a really valuable lesson for all of us, because I'm about to bring up my parents and who they are and the ways that who they are shaped me. And all of us have that kind of experience with our caregivers, whatever form they took, and our need as little people to have their approval. All of that said, I I challenge you, if you have not already, to begin perceiving your lived experience and those around you, the impact that they've had, to always be for you. And I know that people say, like, oh, how is this happening for me? But it is your biggest superpower if you can take all adversities and turn them into something really great. And I always want to emphasize that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have at the time, and my parents are no different. And what I'm sharing today is really just the tip of the iceberg, but it goes so much deeper than this, and maybe someday I'll be sharing those deeper pieces, but they're not helpful today. So the gist is that growing up, my parents, both high achievers, set the bar really high, and at times high enough that it felt impossible to reach. There was nothing that I could do that would really be good enough long term, because I would get praise immediately, and then somehow my collection of good things I had done wouldn't outweigh the really small mistake I made. So sometimes it felt really impossible to sustain good graces. And my dad was so intelligent in such a cool way. He was an attorney with this uncanny ability to retain information after just speed reading it once. Like, he was a speed reader. He would read 4 to 5 books a week and he would retain all of it. It was so cool. It was one of his superpowers. My mom, on the other hand, was a former professional athlete and life coach with this unparalleled tenacity. She is someone who, she named her business Precision Pilates, and precision was absolutely not an accident. She was an Olympic level synchronized swimmer. So back in the day when it was crisp in the pool, but they valued discipline and excellence. And while their intentions, I know, were good to try to raise functioning members of society, and my siblings and I, my internal struggles went unnoticed because I was working so hard behind the scenes late at night without anyone knowing. I was working really hard to make sure that I didn't get the discipline, but I got all the rewards. And so I didn't let anyone know that I was having such a hard time. And when any teacher or person would mention it, I would tell them, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't need anything else to be in trouble for. I don't need, air quotes, more help. But I absorbed these standards of discipline and excellence, and I used my achievements to earn approval while avoiding discipline. So eventually, as I mentioned before, my mom, to this day, she opened her Pilates studio in 2000, and it is currently 2025. Oh no, she opened her studio in 2004. It is currently 2025, and she started her Pilates journey in 2000. And so I grew up around the work. I grew up in Pilates studios, and I absorbed all of the really incredible benefits from that. I didn't realize that it wasn't normal to be surrounded by women who were embodied in themselves, I didn't realize that taking time to go downtown and take a Pilates class at a time when no one knew what Pilates was, frankly, it hadn't hit that mainstream level, and social media didn't exist. And my mom, when I stepped into this work, it was something that my mom had already really trailblazed in our local community, and something that when I picked it up, it was twofold. I got the reward of this other connection with my mom that I had never had. I got this praise when I did well at this thing that I had never really felt the joy of before, because I played soccer as a kid. And I got a lot of praise for that. I I always made varsity teams. I always made the best team in town, and I always started, and I worked really hard because I wasn't a natural born athlete. I was not the kid that felt better after a run, and much like my sister was. But anyways, my mom didn't really come to a lot of games. And that's not a fault. Again, this is not a victim thing because she was an entrepreneur. She was running a business. While I was playing soccer in Seattle on a Saturday, she had a studio to teach classes at. And after school, if I was playing high school soccer, my games were at the same time as her evening classes. And she was the only teacher. She had a business to run and a community that she had created that she had to show up for. And that meant she couldn't show up for my games. And so when I started doing well in the Pilates space, it felt like she was showing up to my games. Wow, teary. I got to have that with her, and I had never had that before. There was always a meeting or a client or someone that was more important when it was soccer. But when I stepped into Pilates, I got this other connection. And simultaneously, so that's one side of the coin for my Pilates passion. And the other was that I had explored everything. I explored a career in occupational therapy, physical therapy. I started going to school for nursing. Well, pre-nursing, let's be really clear here. I was taking prereqs with the intention of becoming a nurse. I looked at yoga certifications. I have a spin certification, all of these things, personal training, all of it. I considered everything while I was taking free Pilates at my mom's studio and realized that my Pilates practice, the stronger it got, the better I was at everything else in my world. And my Pilates helped my everything, but nothing in my life helped my Pilates. And that's when I realized that there was something really special. And that this phrase that my mom said through growing up might just have some truth to it. She'd always say that Pilates is the answer to everything. And truly, at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, she's absolutely right. I get it now. I understand. We share this thing. And again, she is this really excellent person, frankly. But training under her was intense. And not only because at that stage in her teacher training career, her mentorship career, she was intense and she had high standards for us, but that was twofold because I was her daughter. She wasn't just molding me into a really great teacher, a world-class teacher. She was pushing me to meet this standard in order to kind of counteract any bias that might come from A, me being her daughter, but B, I was only 19 years old. Okay? I was young. I was barely old enough to even be taking this certification. And so she wanted to be sure that when I stepped into the room eventually as a teacher at her studio that she had been building for 15 years at that point, that no one thought twice about it. No one thought that this was a nepotism certification, that this was something that, oh, just because she's Amber's daughter, she is here. No, I worked my butt off and she made sure that I did. And she made sure that I was a damn good teacher. And every time she observed or took one of my classes, I had a page full of feedback, which made me stronger. But also, whenever I got it right, or I was always trying to get it right. So then I entered the mentorship of Lolita San Miguel, who had also been a mentor of my mom's and a good friend of my mom's for a really long time. And so my mom graduated from this program I was then taking, the Pilates Master Mentorship Program. She had graduated it 10 years earlier with group A. I was taking it with group FF, and she was the OG. There was only ever supposed to be 3 groups of this program, and she had become this right-hand woman to Lolita, this person who, more than almost anyone in the world, apart from maybe 2 people, she knows this work inside and out. She knows Lolita's lineage and her thought process better than anyone. And for those of you who don't know anything about Pilates history, Lolita San Miguel is one of the Pilates elders. So someone who was trained directly by Joseph Pilates in New York City. And yes, Joseph Pilates was a person. If you did not already know that, I recently gave some history lessons to some friends at a party because they didn't even know that this whole Pilates thing wasn't just some 2020s pop culture thing. Anyways, Lolita was trained by Joseph, and she was one of only 2 people actually handed a piece of paper with a certification at the end of the day, having studied under him. She's a legend in the Pilates world, and because of that, the expectations grew even sharper. Lolita, I wouldn't take back any moment of my mentorship from her. It required me to grow as a person and as a teacher. Lolita was a prima ballerina for the New York Metropolitan Ballet and a professional dancer from a young age. And she had her own battles with perfectionism, with body image and discipline. And that shapes the way that she's trained all of her disciples. And that, her reputation was already pretty high for training really incredible teachers, but you add in the fact that there's this personal connection, this challenge between my mom and Lolita of Lolita almost seeing what she could get away with in front of my mom as she was there training us too. It was just this really weird cocktail of expectations and lack of boundaries, and it really just hit me hard. And again, her knowledge to me was invaluable. But what I internalized from this whole concoction of experiences, the message I received was that I was inherently wrong. I was too young. I was too joyful. Being a soccer player, not a dancer, I was too athletically built. I was too different. And so instead of saying, I'm still a kick butt teacher, leave me alone, I wasn't there yet. I was still wrapped in perfectionism. I just worked harder. I took ballet classes in my kitchen via YouTube. I obsessed over my movements. Wow, crying. We're fine. Ooh. I trained for hours before and after teaching. I took multiple cardio, like spin classes a day, just to shrink myself into an acceptable version of me. And I thought if I could just be better, I'd finally be enough. And this is just one of the stories, one of the moments in my life, one of the seasons where I've let perfectionism run the show. It's presented with my biological father. It's presented here. It's really been a toxic trait for me. So if it's this relevant in my life, I can only imagine how many women this is so deeply personal for. And that's why I've shared my story at this point, but also I want for you to have the tools to break free. Because the truth is, perfectionism is a moving target. And it doesn't matter how much you tweak, perfect, or overextend yourself, because the bar is always going to move. You can't win. I know you think you can, but trust me, you cannot if perfectionism is the goal. And if you've ever found yourself striving to be enough for everyone except yourself, I see you. Perfectionism disguises itself as this noble pursuit of excellence, but underneath, it breeds anxiety, self-doubt, and burnout. It wreaks havoc on your nervous system. It traps you in an endless cycle of stress. But the good news is that we can rewire these patterns by integrating mindfulness, adjusting our habits and our noticing, and using somatic practices. We can learn to work with your perfectionistic tendencies rather than be controlled by them. And I really emphasize that striving for what you're capable of, or what you have a sense that you are capable of, is very different than perfection. Knowing deep down, once you're to a healthy place with it, knowing, I could have done better, and this is what I'll do next time, is very different than I should have done better, and now I'm going to wrap my energy around what's already done and overextend myself next time. I don't know if that was especially clear, but that's a primary difference I really want to show up. And this segment of the episode, moving from personal story to what the heck we're going to do about it, is I'm going to basically be listing out the different kinds of perfectionism, how it shows up. Then I'll provide an example that I've come up with about a fictional person. And then we're going to touch on how to overcome it with 3 different pillars: with mindfulness, with habit adjustment, and with a somatic practice. So, it makes me want to make a printable for you. It makes me want to make a worksheet. But for now, I'm not sure if that'll end up being available. Maybe someday it will. For now, maybe even having the notes app open in your phone or having a pen and paper out could be really helpful. Or even just revisit this later when you have time to write it down. But anywho, number 1, self-oriented perfectionism. Self-oriented perfectionism shows up when you set impossibly high standards for yourself and you are your harshest critic. Things like a simple mistake can send you into a spiral of self-doubt, and you constantly strive for personal excellence, but often feel that you're never doing enough. An example is Emma, a lawyer, spends hours rewriting emails, fearing that they're not articulate enough. She often sacrifices sleep to perfect her work, but feels exhausted and unfulfilled. How we're going to overcome it. Mindfulness. This kind of perfection usually stems from a lack of self-compassion, a lost sense of self. And that lives in your belly. If we're going with chakras or energy centers, your powerhouse, this is in Pilates too. I'm like, it's all connected, ladies. In your belly is your solar plexus, what Joseph Pilates would have called the powerhouse. And muscularly, that is true. And energetically, that is true. And it can be too tight and it can also be too loose. And what we're going to do in the mindfulness realm is to use self-compassion meditations to rewire your response to mistakes. And you can look up on YouTube. I am sure there are so many guided self-compassion meditations, and I encourage you to seek those out. Find one that works for you and do it at least once a week, but you could even go as far as to do it once a day in the morning so that you are setting yourself up for success. Like, if you're taking the LB method, if you haven't started already, please go take advantage of this mini course. But in your morning, your launch sequence, a base behavior could be a self-compassion meditation or self-compassion journaling. Your habit adjustment is to implement a good enough rule. So I don't think it's the Pomodoro principle. But basically, there's this concept that any task will take as long as you give it. So if you have 1 year to write a book, you're going to take the whole year. But if you have 2 months to write the book, you will do it in 2 months. And this is where we're going to start adjusting your habits in that instance of not feeling good enough. So just continuing to analyze something. So you'll set a timer. I have 15 minutes to write this email. And once that timer goes off, you have like another minute to kind of make your finishing touches and freaking send it, or the equivalent of whatever that is. Set a good enough timer for yourself. And then our somatic practice is to use grounding techniques like deep belly breathing to soothe the nervous system when self-criticism arises. So you would sit up tall and you could put both your hands on your belly, or one on your belly and one on your heart. Which am I going to decide? I have decided. Okay. One hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. You'll sit up nice and tall, and you'll inhale, breathe into your belly hand, and exhale, contract the muscles and knit all of them together. And then breathe up into your heart hand. And then allow it to soften as you exhale. And you'll just repeat that. And let's say 4 times just to give yourself some structure. So doing 4 breathing cycles in that way will help soothe the nervous system. And you can retrain your brain to pivot every time those thoughts occur, because initially it's going to be constant when you start to kindly notice this habit, but over time it will soften and your brain will be like, we don't associate this with stress anymore. We don't associate this with I am wrongness anymore. We associate this with a calm nervous system and a cool, collected approach. Next, we have other-oriented perfectionism. And how it shows up is you expect others to meet your high standards and feel frustrated when they fall short. And this ends up really straining our relationships and creating feelings of disappointment and guilt, shame, resentment, blame all over the place. And the example I provide is in a working environment, but this can just as easily be translated to a home environment, a family environment, whatever it is. All of these examples are meant to be specific in a way, but also very applicable to whatever it is you're doing in life. So, example being, Jackie is a manager and she micromanages her team because she believes no one can meet her standards. Her team feels disempowered and morale suffers. How we're going to overcome it is we'll develop awareness around control by observing when frustration arises and labeling it without judgment. So, I talk in a couple episodes about the 3 negotiators. It's a really big pillar of my style of development, if you will. It's something that is unique to me, but I choose to visualize in my mind at any given moment kind of a boardroom table. And on one side is current me and my highest self. On the other side are inner child, inner critic, and limited self. And their jobs are to keep us the same, comfortable, and safe. And perfectionism really comes from a collection of the 3 of their thoughts. However, being able to sit at this table without judgment of the 3 negotiators is really important in this mindfulness exercise, because if you can start to talk to them about, hey, what's going on? What are we really frustrated about? Why are we actually upset? Did you not give clear instruction? Did you not provide clarity around this? And now you're frustrated because you didn't? There's just all of these conversations you can have. But also, Mel Robbins, of course, has recently published her book, The Let Them Theory. And it not only empowers you to release perfectionism of self, but it allows you to release perfectionism of others, or expectations of perfection of others. And I don't want to give away the notes of her book, but I would highly suggest you read it if you struggle with perfectionism in general. But yeah, I guess all of these forms of perfectionism could benefit from the let them theory. Sorry, tap the microphone. But anyways, habit adjustment is we're going to delegate a task without micromanaging and practicing the let them theory, practicing letting it go, and truly not redoing it. You can coach for next time, starting with what they did well, but you will not redo the task that they did. That not only disempowers the person who did it, but it is counterproductive to your goal of breaking up with perfectionism. Our somatic practice is body scanning. So when you feel this frustration, when you feel this tension, I want for you to sit up or stand up nice and tall and close your eyes and take a couple just big breath cycles in general, inhaling fully and exhaling fully, but then ask the question, where am I holding this? So is it in your shoulders? Is it in your belly? Is it in your hips? Is it in your head, your neck? Where is it? And you'll notice where this tension builds when you feel others aren't meeting your expectations. And then once you've identified where it is, you'll breathe light into that area. So just imagine bright, shiny light filling that area as you breathe. And then imagine kind of like sparkles or fireflies. That inhale sends the light there, and the exhale, it kind of flutters off of you. It just dissipates and alchemizes into the space around you. That practice helps me all the stinking time. I have 2 toddlers and a partner in law enforcement, and I use it. His brain is so capable and intelligent, and there are some simple things in our home where I'm like, my guy, and I close my eyes and I picture the light in my shoulders and I let it go. Let them. There's actually kind of a funny story around this. I managed at my local Athleta, the clothing brand, for years. And of course, there are all these moments where you're in the dressing room with these women, and being in the dressing room is a really cool experience. It's a very vulnerable existence for the person trying on, and being able to build that trust at a moment's notice, but that's kind of a topic for another day. There was a couple, and it was so cute. They were celebrating their 80th anniversary. Like, what? 80? They got married really young, and they both happened to be quite old at that time. So 80 years together. And I asked her, she came out of the dressing room. I'm just picturing their sweet faces. And he was sitting on the chairs in the little waiting area. And every time she'd walk out, he would just light up. And I just get teary thinking about that beautiful kind of love. And I saw it, I was 19, maybe 20. And I asked her, what advice would you give a young person like me? And she said, let him fold the towels however he wants to fold the towels. And of course, I was slightly perplexed by this. I just kind of gave her a look that clearly said, go on. So she did. And she explained this situation where when they were very first married, she asked him to fold the towels out of the laundry. And so he folded them in a way that she did not approve of. It was not the way she did it. And so she stopped him, corrected him, and he just said, okay, and walked away. And he never folded a towel ever again. He never once tried to help her fold. And she says, let him fold the towels however he wants to fold the towels, and anything else that applies to this message. And I made this mistake early in Julian and I's relationship where I am a Tetris precision kind of lawn uh, dishwasher loader and unloader. I was very diligently trained as a kid to unload the dishwasher from the bottom rack first, because if you unload the top first, you spill the water from the top to the bottom and you're doing double the work. Triple the work. I don't know. And he was doing the dishes and he goes to unload the dishwasher, and I don't know what got up my butt that day, but I looked at him and I asked very rudely, "Do you do it to piss me off?" He calmly and innocently asks, "What?" To which I reply, "Unload the dishwasher that way." To which he rebuts that he has lived his whole life emptying dishwashers and maintaining clean dishes just fine, and that it's all gonna be okay. And this is very much a practice in letting them and not allowing my expectations of how something could or should be done not only ruin a moment, but tarnish a relationship. So, as lighthearted as those are, there are so many instances that are less cute in that realm. So, do with that information what you may. But next up is socially prescribed perfectionism. And this is when you feel pressured to meet societal or external expectations, fearing disapproval or judgment. And with social media, this runs rampant. So the example is to suit on that. Sophia is a new mother. She pushes herself to maintain a perfectly curated, Instagram-worthy life, leading to exhaustion and burnout. And I was just messaging with, actually, the cutest thing is that Varnit is a friend from elementary school. And she is a new mother, and she's always, I just remember her intelligence and her kindness as a kid. And we took 5th grade together, but she's a new mom and she's a new doctor, and she's doing all of these really incredible things. And she was talking about on her story the other day, basically, leave me alone. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And, mommy culture is wild. I did not understand just how wild the West was until entering motherhood and doing it in such a fashion where I did 2 kids so quickly. But the pressure is real. It feels real. It is not actually real, but it feels real. And I think that's an episode for a whole nother day. I think we could do a whole episode on each of these kinds of perfectionism. But anyways, how we're going to overcome it. No need for a story. You know the feeling. Mindfulness. Notice and challenge the internalized societal expectation through journaling. So basically, in my episode with Stephanie, which was the last episode, oh my gosh, please go listen to it. Her insights are incredible, and it makes these tools even more powerful when you have a really nice friend-to-friend conversation that preludes it, which is why we're here right now. But she and I discussed this idea of listing out in your journal or in your notes app or wherever you have the space to, noting what your perfect existence would look like. What if you had everything that you were, quotes, supposed to have and did everything that you were, quotes, supposed to do, what would every day look like? And to mirror that in any movie or show, if you want to guarantee that someone is unlikable, if the writers want to guarantee that someone is utterly unlikable, they will make them perfect. And imagine you as that perfect version in a show. They are not the hero. They are not the protagonist. They're usually the living worst. They're hugely unrelatable. They're boring. They're the worst. Your humanness is perfectly imperfect. And if we can notice and challenge what perfect is supposed to look like and realize, wow, I don't actually want that. Someone else wants that for me, or someone else told me that I should want that. And that's where the LB method, again, really helps you to identify who you actually want to be and how to pursue it for you. And the habit adjustment from there is to take breaks from social media to reset your perception of what is freaking normal. Okay? The people that are sharing, the people who are influencing are not normal people. Always. Or at least go find the creators who are. The people whose lives look more like you, and at least try to cut it 50-50. If you have half the people that look like you and show up like you in normal life, and the other half are influencers, absolutely, that can be just as helpful. But go live your life and talk to people like you, your friends, your family, as often as you can. And our somatic practice is to shake off external pressures by engaging in free movement or dancing to release stored stress. So similar to how we visualized where the tension was being held in our bodies, I want for us to picture where the stress or the strain is being held onto, where things are especially tight, but then make like Taylor Swift and shake it off. Put your favorite music on, and for no one else, as though no one is watching, because no one is watching, shake your body, okay? In my high school, we had this cheer. It was like, hey, bull pups. And then we'd go, hey, what? And the cheerleaders would go, shake your booty. And then we'd all go, no way. They'd say, shake your booty. We'd say, okay. And it was this really dumb jump, shake your booty, jump, jump, shake your. And it was like, I'm doing that with my kids lately, is why I bring it up and why it's so fresh in my mind right now. But I regularly dance like no one's watching, even if my in-laws are in the house. And I have been caught red-handed dancing like a goober. My father-in-law was just standing there, and I turned around and I got startled because I thought they were all out in the wood shop with my husband. And I turn around, I'm like, huh! And he's like, there she is. And I thought it was going to be a laugh at me. I thought it was going to be this embarrassment. And he goes, there she is. And it makes me want to cry right now. But we don't have to take it so seriously. It's just life. And social media somehow makes things harder for us. If I didn't have to be on here to spread my message and to work in this way, to do the kind of work that I want to do, a social presence and a certain level of vulnerability is necessary. And maybe I will just share my ridiculous dancing at some point, but shake it off. Move your body in a fun way. Move your body in a silly way. Just do it. I promise. Put on your favorite playlist. Find your favorite song and just shake it the heck off. And if you're in these situations often where you feel like you need to be perfect because society deems you need to be, have like one specific short song that you can sneak somewhere away. You can sneak into your car and scream sing, or you can sneak into a little side room and put it on, and it is guaranteed to shift your state because you have practiced the shifting of the state in your normal life. I challenge you to do that. And then for surezies, come and put it in the comments and let me know what song that is so that I can add it to my playlist. Okay? Now, Adaptive versus maladaptive perfectionism. Ugh. So, believe it or not, there is an adaptive form, I believe, an adaptive form, a decent, a good, a pure form of perfectionists who use their drive for excellence in a way that fuels growth without crippling self-doubt. And that is a fine line, sister friend. And I hope to someday get to a place where I can wear embodied love of quality. Let's say that. Let's call it that. Embodied love of quality. Okay. Over maladaptive perfectionism. Because a maladaptive perfectionist experiences anxiety, burnout, and mental exhaustion from their drive for excellence. So, example, Lena is an artist. She refines her skills through practice while embracing imperfections. Meanwhile, Brian is a writer. I should have done let's say Brianna. I don't know why I did a man there. My dad's name was Brian. Maybe I was thinking about my dad from earlier in my notes. But anyways, meanwhile, Brianna is a writer who avoids submitting her work out of fear that it's never good enough. Do you see the difference? So there's this artist who's just free flowing and there's this speckle that landed where it wasn't supposed to. And she's like, that's apparently how it was supposed to be. Go team, go me. Meanwhile, Brianna is sitting there fussing over every period and comma, and she doesn't submit her work. And she'll never fulfill her dream of being a writer, a published writer. Because she stopped herself. Okay. All right, so how we're going to overcome it. These all just hit really hard for me. I am reminded as I discuss it with you that we're all just working through it. And so what we're going to do, mindfulness, develop a mantra such as progress, not perfection. And that is one of mine, progress over perfection. Because being a recovering perfectionist, I believe that if I couldn't clean my house, like deep clean my house all the way to every speck of dust, that I wouldn't do any of it. I wouldn't tidy anything. So there were just my ADHD doom piles all over, and I wouldn't touch any of it because I didn't have the time to do my whole house, which is ridiculous. Just set a timer and get as much done as you can, and that's progress, okay? Now, the habit adjustment is to reframe mistakes as learning opportunities. And this comes up all the time where it's like, how is this happening for me? But if you were to actually do this and not from a martyr way, not from a victim way, really look at the mistake that you have made and actually figure out, write it down, whatever you need to do, what you gained. Even if what you gained is just another way that it's not gonna work. Another way is like, well, that's not the answer, is it? It can be that simple. Our somatic practice is using vagus nerve stimulation. So vagus nerve stimulation is fancy for a way that we calm our stress responses and a way that we calm our more primitive, more foundational nervous system. And how we can do that is with deep exhalations and with humming, actually, so that and you feel that vibrational shift. So again, you have your song that you picked in the last one that you're going to dance it out to, but I started this practice with humming that song. Okay. So think of a song that you really like and just hum it. Hum it out. And as you're breathing, so you take your inhale and make your hum go as long as you can without inhaling again. You should have no more air left to hum. And that's when you get to inhale. and then continue your humming. Even if you set a timer for 30 seconds, see how long you can stretch your hum. Next up, the classic perfectionist. And this, how it shows up is just generally, you thrive on structure, but struggle with flexibility, which leads to stress when plans change. We've all been there, or at least I have. And maybe when I say we all have been there, it feels so big to me that I assume everyone's done this. And if this isn't the episode for you, that's okay. But I think that the person who finds this episode is going to be the one who has felt this. Example being, Danielle meticulously plans her day, but a last-minute meeting throws her off completely. And I still struggle with this. And I don't even have anywhere to be most of the time. But how to overcome it? Mindfulness. Practice radical acceptance of unpredictability. Now, I have developed this belief that if your dream existence is dramatically different or requires really massive shifts to become your reality, that we need to get really comfortable with change on a daily basis. And I believe that because if you don't even handle the small curveballs that source or life or whoever throws your way, if we don't learn how to calm our nervous system in those moments, then how could we possibly be trusted with the big shifts that come with our dreams? How could we possibly be trusted to maintain the shifts provided to us by our dreams? And so when I reframed that, I became a lot more comfortable with change. When I realized that my ability to succeed and to acquire the life that I dream to be possible for me, my ability to do that relies heavily on my ability to navigate change. Because there are so many things that are different from my current day to my dream. So a mindfulness practice of radical acceptance and of unpredictability, but also this mindset shift of, what great practice I'm getting. I'm strengthening the muscles required to adapt, to smile, and figure it out, because everything is figure outable in your ability to look for the good in this change. The habit adjustment is to start scheduling unstructured time to build flexibility. So I know when I was hammered in my pursuit, or hammered with a heavy schedule. I don't know why hammered came out, but when my schedule was so full that any wrinkle messed everything up, I was miserable. It led to actual burnout. It led to actual diagnosable problems. And I started doing it, but I started doing it too late, where I left Wednesdays open. And I listened to a lot of self-development content and a lot of different podcasts and things from high-level CEOs. And the ones that seem the happiest to me are the ones that build in a day or a half day where extra things go, because they know that it's inevitable that a last-minute meeting or an adjustment of their day, they know that that's inevitable. So they set up a Wednesday where the overflow tasks that they didn't get done for themselves go, or the random doctor's appointment, that's where it goes. And if you can build in flexibility, if you can build in permission, adjustability, flexibility, whatever, you are significantly more likely to maintain whatever you're doing. And that's a principle in the LB method as well, is determining ahead of time what your base, between, and best levels of exertion are. And our somatic practice is to use EFT tapping to process rigidity related stress. And so you can look up EFT for flexibility, EFT for busy schedule, EFT for fill in the blank, and you will for sure find someone with a full guided emotional freedom technique session for you. EFT is proven to be a magic helper in your journey, and EFT for me has been massively helpful. So go look up EFT tapping to process whatever it is you're wanting to work through. You could even probably put in for perfectionism. Now, the intense perfectionist, how it shows up. Success becomes an obsession, often at the expense of well-being and relationships. Example, Rachel is a CEO who sacrifices sleep and social life for work, struggling with burnout. How to overcome it. Engage in self-inquiry and ask, at what cost? And to take it a step further from conversations I've had with Hannah Talbot from our very first interview session on Women When Fueled, not at the expense of me. And me includes the things I really care about. Me includes the relationships that I want to nurture, the practices I know nurture me. And so if the answer to at what cost is at the cost of you and what matters to you, you need to start practicing sacred boundaries and allowing for yourself to say no, regardless of what people pleasing you might still be recovering from. And the habit adjustment is to implement sacred pauses to check in with yourself. So every week, if there are people asking for your time, for your energy, to pick your brain about something, whatever, if it's not a hell yes for you, then why are you doing it? Because of course, there are going to be certain things in your life that are not hell yeses, but still need to be done, like your taxes. You still need to roll with the punches of a human existence. You're going to need to fulfill the volunteer hours that your kid's school requires, which might not be a hell yes for you. But why am I doing it? Because I have this bigger picture. And at what cost? So implementing these pauses to really check in with your use of time and your use of energy. Because at the end of the day, all that really matters is time and energy. So use it wisely. Somatic practice. Incorporate restorative yoga to down-regulate the nervous system. So yin yoga in particular, what Jasmine from one of our episodes discusses, yin yoga in particular is one of those ones where, for me anyways, it is a meditation in itself. Your ability to sit with various discomforts and to continue returning to your body in combination with your breath is a more meditative practice than it is a workout practice. So if you're going to a yin yoga class expecting some kind of hatha burn, you're not going to get it. And what that means is that this yoga is not, the point is not to get your workout in. The point is not to close your Apple activity rings. The point is to reconnect with yourself and to downregulate the nervous system. So again, there is a wealth of knowledge online, free and paid offerings, so that you could find a yin yoga restorative practice. You could find EFT tapping. You can find deep breathing or vagus nerve stimulation or shaking practices. Like, there are so many incredible people that are providing quality content for free and at low cost, like myself. And we do it because it's part of our hell yes. We do it because it's something that we love showing up for. So use it. By all means, use it. And of course, if you want to go find a yoga studio, use it. Find the tools you need and try them on. It's okay to try it on and think like, ooh, that's not for me. So find another adjustment. Find a way to restore your nervous system, to downregulate your nervous system, even if it's not my suggestion of restorative yoga. I'm not your boss. Now, I don't know what I wrote there. I take all these notes. It says Parisian, but I don't know why I called it Parisian. Maybe it was an autocorrect, but we'll just go with it. A Parisian perfectionist prioritizes others' expectations, often neglecting your own needs. So this kind of leans into other forms of perfectionism, and it's probably a good subcategory for whatever kind of perfectionism that you're working through. But example being, Alex says yes to every request at work, but she leaves no time for self-care. And this is relevant for so many of us just in general, but how we're going to overcome it, I don't think that I really need to dive into it that deeply, do we? I think that it's something that we can all really relate to. Mindfulness. Observe where you are overextended and practice saying no with love. So again, asking at what cost, having that sacred pause, and learning to let them be upset with your no if it comes up. And if you feel the need, you can say, by saying yes to you, I'm saying no to this. And I don't want to say no to that, or whatever it is. And there's this, the Olsen girls, Mary Kate, and the others, Mary Kate and Ashley, and their younger sister was who I was trying to remember the name of, but their dad taught them that no is a full sentence. And that, for some reason, hit me just right. No can be a full sentence. No. If you want to follow it up with, I don't want to, you can, but you don't have to. No. And that truly is a mindfulness practice. It is so silly simple, but it can be so silly difficult to take a look at when you are overextended and to say no, because you are no longer to have the cost be you. Habit adjustment is to set clear boundaries and honor them. And we talk about this in our upcoming episode with Kiana Moore, where she's a self-love coach, and this concept of sacred boundaries even deeper. And I don't remember, she said it so beautifully. I don't remember exactly how she said it, but essentially a boundary is where I can love you and love me at the same time. And so then the somatic practice is to use heart-centered breathing to connect with your needs. And so that same practice from earlier where we had a hand on our belly and a hand on our heart, you can use that exact practice again, or you can adjust the one we stated before to just be on your belly and the one now to be just on your heart, both hands on your heart. And to really breathe up into the center of your chest. That bone is called your sternum. And for me, at my most perfectionistic driven time, my chest was locked. I was saying yes to everyone but me, and my physicality showed it. And it took Hannah putting her hand on my chest during a quick Reiki moment, and I just started bawling because for the first time in a long time, I felt my heart soften and let go. And it was the release of the weight of everyone's expectations. So you don't have to carry it all. You don't have to do it all. If it's not yours, don't do it. If it's at the cost of you and there's no other reason for you to be extending yourself in that way, no can be a full sentence. Next. And finally, last but not least, the procrastinator perfectionist. How it shows up. You delay taking action because you're waiting for the perfect moment. If I could tell you the number of websites, I'm going to cry again. I have wanted this dream for so long. I have wanted to have a podcast, be a content creator, share love, light, and insight with people so that maybe I could help for so long. And I have stopped myself short. Maybe that's why I put this last. I imagine it must be. I specifically remember seeing YouTubers just starting out and YouTube really just becoming more of a thing for development content and people sharing their lives and their experiences and thinking, what if? In high school, I graduated in 2013. And I remember in 2009 seeing some YouTubers and people I knew putting videos online and thinking, wow, what if I could do that? And I would write the scripts, I would post some videos, or I would start to learn how to edit the videos, and I wouldn't post it. It wasn't good enough. And I'm so done boxing myself up. I'm so done not fulfilling the dream because I didn't execute the plan that I agonized over. So similar, the example I provided is that Mia has spent years researching a business idea but never launches it. And I've seen multiple friends, multiple family members go through exactly this. They're not willing to learn on the fly. They're afraid of something. And I perceive that that something is, what if I find out my biggest fears were true? And if I never try, and if I never hit publish, no one can say that they were right. And the question I pose for you, what do you gain within this lie? But what are you losing within this lie? For me, I was chasing everyone else's dream for a really long time. And when I tried to make my dream and everyone else's dreams coexist, I hit burnout. I finally started living into these other truths. I started creating my Back to You course. I started doing all these other things, and it really upset certain people in my life that I was flipping the script on them, that I wasn't as available for them. It really upset my mom. It really upset my partner. It really upset all of these people because I wasn't showing up as the perfectionistic people pleaser that they had come to expect from me. And when I hit burnout, they realized how much I had been suffering, how hard it was to carry their expectations and my dreams, and how much it hurt me that they pushed those on me. And I'm really lucky that I have such incredible people in my life that they were able to look inward and realize what their impact like the kind of impact they had on me, but not everyone is. And so what we're going to do is how we're going to overcome mindfulness, catch perfectionistic paralysis and name it. Habit adjustment. We'll use a 2-minute rule. to take a small step now. So what's the next right step I can take? And then the somatic practice, try power poses before starting a task to shift into action mode. So before every podcast episode that I record, because I know it's not going to be perfect, I do the Superwoman pose, Wonder Woman, Super Lady, Superhuman, whatever pose, where I have my fists and I put them on my waist and I open my chest and I take big breaths and like kind of a power person pose. And I smile really big and I take big breaths and I smile so that I can come on here and say, hello, hello, my lovely human, and welcome back to Women When Fueled. And you feel a smile. I communicate a smile, even though this is not a video podcast. And I was mistaken. There is one more form of perfectionism that I listed here. And I would just skip it, but it's actually really important. They're all important, right? And so this is the messy perfectionist. And how does that work? Well, I'm going to tell you how it works, how it shows up. You start projects with enthusiasm, but struggle to complete them. You love starting over. Example, Krista has half-finished projects everywhere, but hesitates to finish them because they don't feel good enough. You get to this certain point where it becomes a little hard. The excitement of starting is not there. The results that you hoped would come about were not immediate. And its luster kind of fades. And I feel like the messy perfectionist and the procrastinator perfectionist go really well hand in hand. Or at least I have struggled with both. And it's kind of, if it's not one, then it's the other. And how we're going to overcome it. So within mindfulness, we're going to notice resistance and reframe completion as an act of self-trust. I trust myself to do this. I trust that good enough is a good enough foundation that I can continue to grow from or improve upon. And then our habit adjustment is use body doubling. So this actually really helps me and my more normal friends. I've had to kind of explain it even before I had official language for it, that being body doubling. And so this is to work alongside someone for accountability. So I like to have a friend over who just talks to me, who maybe is doing something alongside me, but if they're sitting at my kitchen table, sorry, I felt like I needed to pop my neck. If they're just sitting at my kitchen table and I'm cleaning my kitchen, that works for me. Having someone to just be with me works really well. And our somatic practice is to engage in bilateral stimulation. So this is like walking or tapping to break through mental blocks. So that EFT tapping technique, you can use that again. And going for it, there are all different kinds of bilateral stimulations. And those are just two really small examples. But you could look it up again online. I'm sure someone has a bilateral stimulation practice video, but you could just go for a walk. It can be that simple. Go outside, walk, take a freaking breath to break through the mental block and like really allow for yourself to focus on what is stopping you. Talk to your negotiators, do all of these things that you can to stay mindful while you're walking. Use the walk as a form of meditation instead of a form of escape. And for realsies this time, this is the last form of perfectionist that we're going to talk about today. All of this is to say, the truth about enough is that at its core, perfectionism is fueled by a belief that we need to earn our worth. But you were enough before you ever perfected a single thing. And you were enough before the overworking, before the overthinking, and before the overextending. And you're enough right now, exactly as you are. The work that we do to work through our perfectionism isn't about erasing perfectionistic tendencies, but about reclaiming your power from them. It's about breaking the cycle, rewriting the narrative, and stepping into the truth that your worth isn't tied to what you do, that instead it's rooted in who you are. So, if you're ready to shift, I invite you to start today. Take these tools, try them on, and grow from there. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, just intentionally. Because you are beautifully imperfect. And your beautifully imperfect self is already more than enough. So here's the takeaway. Perfectionism might disguise itself as ambition or excellence, but at its core, it's fueled by self-doubt, fear, and the need for approval. And the truth? You don't need to be perfect to be worthy, impactful, or successful. As you move forward, I want for you to notice where perfectionism is holding you back. What would happen if you let things be good enough? If you trusted that you were good enough, right now as you are. Remember, life isn't about flawless execution. It's about showing up, embracing the messy middle, and allowing yourself to grow. Until next time, keep fueling your life with what truly matters. You've got this, and you're doing